Hi, my name is Christian Reynolds and I'm from the Centre for Food Policy at City University of London. I'm today talking about how the benefits of fruit and veg production and consumption are linked to environmental benefits for the planet. So thank you very much to everybody for organising this great conference. It's a pleasure to be here. As I said, my name is Christian Reynolds. My specialism is in healthy, sustainable diets and how you change food consumption to reduce food waste. So what sort of things do we need to do to shift towards having a better diet for the planet and a better diet for reducing food waste? And I've been working in this space for about a decade. And I'm first going to just talk about that the climate is changing and that there's some grand challenges that are associated with environmental impact. And the first one of these is that the climate is changing. Over the last 100 years, or over the last while, anthropogenic climate change has become an aspect of life. And as the environment heats up, things start happening in terms of agriculture. In the first degree or so, there's actually some benefits to European fruit and veg consumption, or production, I should say, that there are actually possibly higher yields within Europe for certain parts. But as we continue to increase above 1 degree to 2 degrees to 3 degrees to 4 degrees over typical average temperatures, there are actually decreasing crop yields, more stresses, lots of other things happening. And so a way to look at climate change at the moment is this isn't the hottest year of the last 10, it's the coolest year of the next 20, which is a terrifying thing. So we need to start changing our diets for climate change reasons. Food production and climate change are also very much linked. So you can see these different areas marked, and this is looking at the amount of environmental impact in the crop increases or decreases based on changes in temperature. So you can see that as the climate is increasing, crop production may increase and fall. And as I said, in the short term, there's a small positive gain for Europe, but over the longer term, there's not. And this leads us through to the next challenge, which is that we have a growing population, but we need to be feeding them on a smaller amount of land, but with the same amount of inputs. So you can see here the current population and the required crop production for the 2050 population. And it shows that there are two things that need to happen. We need to be increasing food production without expanding onto agricultural land, as I'll get to a little bit later. And we also need to be reducing the growth in the demand for certain types of foods and products. And this is where fruit and vegetables can play a really key role in being one of those products that can be consumed more for health and for the planet. Linked to this is the emissions challenge. So linked to climate change is the emissions, that greenhouse gas emissions that we produce. And so to get to this aspect over here, which is a target to reduce to 2 degrees or less of change, to achieve that, we have to do lots of different steps. So this is currently the agricultural greenhouse gas production, and this is what it would be by 2050. It's forecast to triple by 2050 if we do nothing. But there's a lot of different things that we can do to reduce to a baseline, but even more things we have to do to actually reduce it to be within sustainable planetary boundaries. And one of the biggest parts of this is to reduce food demand emissions. So actually to change what we're eating. And the key part of that is to increase our fruits and vegetable consumption. There's lots of other aspects here which are additionally to do with changing our farming practices and changing our diets, but this one here is looking at changing our fruit and vegetable consumption, and that is really, really powerful, and it's something that we can all do as practitioners. The next big challenge is biodiversity. Agriculture is one of the leading causes of biodiversity loss in mammals and birds and other insects, etc. So agriculture and the agricultural impacts are part of the problem as well, relating to global challenges. Linked to this in terms of fruits and vegetables, we actually have a decreasing number of varietals of fruits and vegetables currently being used in our horticulture as kind of the dominant fruits and vegetables that are for sale. So we both need to increase the amount of fruits and vegetables being farmed to increase biodiversity and to change cropping methods. But we also have to think about the biodiversity within fruits and vegetables. And these are both challenges that can be solved through increasing consumption and increasing production and changing methods. Finally, there's an urbanisation challenge. So currently over 50%, nearly 55% of the global population is urban-based. This is forecast to rise to over 66% by 2050. And that means there's a lot of discussions about what we do with the rest of the land. Do we use it for rewilding? How do we farm? Do we need to farm in urban cities? How do we actually use these different changes to increase the resilience of our communities so that when there are fruits and vegetable shortages due to COVID-19, they are lessened and the impact is lessened. Part of this is urban agriculture, so actually being able to grow fruits and vegetables and other sorts of things within urban settings, rooftop gardens, community gardens, underground grow tunnels, etc. But also part of this is looking at how we use our peri-urban land differently to understand how we farm and how we can actually grow things. And fruits and vegetables play right into that category. So among all these different challenges, such as reducing biodiversity loss, living within the global carbon budget for food, feeding humanity on the existing amount of cropland, achieving net positive emissions, and changing how we grow and optimizing yields to have resilient landscapes, which are better, healthier landscapes, and also healthier communities, both in the city and rural areas, fruit and vegetables can address all of these different challenges. And there's a brilliant report that was released last week by WWF around how we move towards healthy, sustainable diets, if you want to find out a little bit more about some of the stuff I've been showing on these slides. But with all of this, there are lots of different pathways to getting more fruits and vegetables into the diet. There's no one simple solution, and all of them, it's partly eat more fruits and vegetables. The current consumption, there's a light green bar in the center here, that's the attribution of fruits and vegetables to lots of different dietary pathways. So this is the current diet across Europe. You can see a very small amount of fruits and vegetables in there. This is the national recommended dietary guidelines aggregated of the countries across Europe. And you can see a bit more of the fruits and vegetables in there, and I'll be coming to that on a later slide. But you can see in future dietary pathways of flexitarian, so eating a small amount of meat and eating plant-based at the same time, pescatarian, eating only fish and plant-based products, vegetarian or vegan diets, there is an increase in fruits and vegetables. And fruits and vegetables are a really powerful thing because it increases satiety, increases fiber, and increases your micronutrients of types that, are not available in many other forms outside the animal protein groups. And so if we're decreasing the amount of animal-based proteins in our diets, fruits and vegetables need to be a cornerstone of this. And it shows that the environmental impacts, as you can see on this axis, decrease with the increase in fruits and vegetable consumption as part of a whole diet. And as I said in the last slide, daily fruits and vegetable consumption is part of the solution here. Within Europe, 30+% are not eating their 5 a day on a daily basis, with 50% only having 1 to 4 portions. This is really quite frightening. And for an easy solution to this, it's just saying increase by 1 portion, increase the portion size, increase above 5 or more portions, and this will change your daily carbon footprint and change your wider systemic global environmental impacts. And so just meeting daily dietary recommendations is a really powerful thing. But overall, not everywhere on the planet does this either. So it's not just related to Europe. So you can see here that there are different dietary patterns and different dietary emissions for every country's diet, and each person within a country has a different dietary global emissions. But you can see here that countries such as Brazil, Australia, Argentina, they have very high current emissions versus what is recommended in their national dietary guidelines. Well, many of the European countries have a smaller difference between, but in virtually all cases, moving from current diets to what is recommended within their dietary guidelines, which includes eating 5 a day or more, say in Australia, 7 a day, fruits and vegetables, and also reducing your red and processed meat consumption to within medically recommended amounts, drastically reduces the amount of per capita food-related emissions. So there's a really good slogan here. This is from a EU campaign that was run across multiple cities in Europe at the city level, saying, good for you is good for the planet too. And that's a really powerful message to put in. If you're eating your recommended fruits and vegetables daily, if you're having food that's good for you, there's a powerful synergy there between healthy, sustainable diet, well, health and sustainable diets currently. And we should use that to actually reinforce fruits and vegetables and healthy dietary patterns and habits. And one of the keystones of this is if we think just in terms of dietary recommendations, we're not going far enough. What we can also do is think beyond that, what our entire dietary pattern needs to be to actually move towards a sustainable net positive dietary pattern. And last year, January 2019, the Eat Lancet report came out, and it was a brilliant modelling exercise into what a healthy planetary diet would be. And the big takeaways for me, and I think for most of the community, were increasing fruit consumption to between 100 to 300 grams a day, and increasing vegetable consumption to up to 600 grams a day. So over half the daily plate is fruits and vegetable consumption, with other parts there. And as I said, that increases your fiber and increases satiety compared to other sorts of traditional diets. And then also with that, decrease animal products to a much smaller amount. And so I'll leave you to look at the Eat Lancet diet in your own time, but please go ahead if you're looking for more. But I guess your question is, how do we get there, considering most people aren't eating enough fruits and veg in Europe or globally? Well, I think the good news is that dietary trends are changing with each generation. So this is a graph here showing back from 1975 to 2015 and looking at how different age groups within that are actually changing their diets. And so there's also, cultural trends and cultural change across time periods, but there's also generational trends between different age groups. So you can see here that that in 75 there was slightly more fruits and veg being eaten, and the total fruits and veg across the UK has been decreasing. But the younger groups are actually eating more fruits and veg than their older generational counterparts. So somebody who is 20 today is eating more fruit and veg than they were eating back in the 70s or 80s or even 50s or 60s. And if we think about this in the really long view, that means that we're going in the right direction. There is more availability, but we just need to keep on stepping this up. So naturally, there is more fruit and veg being eaten, but we need to increase the environment. We need to increase this. And this, I guess, stresses through to this graph, which is just showing the difference in generational birth decade from 1905 through to 75. And you can see here that the differences in age groups actually have different levels of kilocalories and environmental impacts. And part of this is complication is the amount of calories and the presence of ultra-processed food in the diet. So diets currently for younger people are shifting closer to the Eat Lancet diet than people back in the 1970s or 80s, where they were at the same ages. However, now there is a much more dominance of ultra-processed food within the diet. So we're on the right track, but we need to keep up in able to have a more environmentally sustainable and friendly and healthy diet. So that means that fruits and veg need to continually be part of that, and we need to continue to press for increased consumption. So the take-home messages for this have been that consumption and production of fruits and vegetables can help address some of the major environmental challenges. However, currently throughout Europe and globally, we're not eating enough fruits and veg, either as a society or at an individual level. Increasing our consumption to nationally recommended guidelines will help reduce environmental impacts, both and health impacts for ourselves and environmental impacts. But further dietary changes possible is happening at a generational level and is needed if we are to have a healthy, sustainable diet for the planet. I would love to talk to you guys further about this. Thank you for letting me talk at this conference, and hopefully it's a brilliant, hopefully see you in the future.